Okay, yesterday we were learning there's Lieben Gomor, which is making it red hot. There's Lieben Kal, which is making it hot, that if you touch this, if it's clean, if you touch the sides of it, you're going to burn your hand. Hagala, pouring water, hot water, putting the thing into hot water, that's the ideal way of kashering. And then we had Milu V'idu, every 24 hours. That's if it became treif through or chametzik through cold liquids that were there for 24 hours. What? 24 hours. I told you have to change the water every 24 hours. If something became chametzik by cold liquid in there for 24 hours, so the way to kosher it is you put it covered completely in cold water. For 24 hours, you change the water. Again, 24 hours, change the water, and again 24 hours. Three times 24 hours, no?
Something like a vessel.
You put in a bathtub. Okay, so now let's get into the practical things of, now that we have these introductions, now we can understand, let's go through the kitchen and see what you need to do. What we're doing now in the class, I'm saying clearly, is lenient opinions. We're not going through the strict opinions that we did in other classes, but lenient opinions as far as what's minimum necessity to kasher the house of Pesach. So let's go from the easiest things to the hardest things. Okay? So number one, you have, let's say, your refrigerator that you use the whole year for chametz. So it has to be thoroughly cleaned out. The same thing with the freezer. You have to clean it out. Make sure there's no crumbs, because crumbs do fall, especially in the freezer. You have crumbs falling, dirt, whatever. So you have to clean out the refrigerator spotlessly clean. According to many poskim, that's all you need to do. You don't need to line the shelves, you don't need to line the walls. There are opinions that say it's better not only to clean it out spotlessly well, but you also line at least the shelves. The walls, it depends. If the food itself touches the wall, maybe you should line the wall. But that's a different story. But many people are machmir that they not only just clean it out well, which is halachically enough, but they'll also line the shelves, because just in case maybe it wasn't cleaned out. Same thing with the freezer. Now, obviously, if somebody doesn't want to use the freezer for Pesach, they don't need it for Pesach, so technically they can keep the chametz in the freezer and tape it in a way that you won't come to open it during Pesach. And then that freezer you could sell with your chametz, because it's a separate compartment, and you can sell it with the chametz. So that's pretty easy to be fit. By the way, this happens a lot though. In the freezers, there's little holes, and a lot of times you look down there, there's crumbs falling all over the place. Now somebody told me there was an interesting thing. Their vent is on top, and they saw that there's also crumbs up there. Now those are places you can't get to. But gosh, you just physically can't take it apart and get there. So then what's appropriate to do in that case is to pour some bleach, not a lot of bleach, pour bleach on those crumbs, that they ruin the crumbs, they're not edible anymore for dogs, it's not considered food anymore, and then that would suffice, because it's not coming up anyway. You just don't want it present there, so you pour or a detergent or something just to ruin the crumbs that are there. Next easy thing is, let's say you have tables and chairs. Okay, so you have tables and chairs, they have to be cleaned, obviously, because they are around chametz the whole year. And the best thing is to cover the table with something. Now, what is the best thing to do? Something that's not going to tear, something that's not going to just fall apart. So what some people do is, let's say they'll take a thick plastic and they'll cover the table with it, and then they'll put the tablecloth on top of that. So then that's already, there's no hot chametz there anyway, because you covered it, and it's a separate, like a new table, so to speak. And then you do that. And the same thing with the chairs that people have, they have to make sure that there's no chametz there. What?
Why thick plastic, not just
because the thin one breaks.
The thin one tears. The thin ones tear. You have to go take Kiddush, people just stand there and rip it, You put a thicker thing or vinyl. Some people have vinyl. Some people. One second. Some people have.
You cover that anyway with the
I understand, but it's for Pesach. You're supposed to cover it. Make sure that there's no chametz because you don't know where there's crumbs. Especially, I'll give you an example. There are many tables that people eat directly on the table. Yeah, and there are many tables. You don't see them that often today. But there are tables that you open up and you can put another leaf into the table to extend the table. Okay, when you ever open up those rollers, if you eat on the table, you'll see they're full of crumbs all over the place. Okay? So those crumbs have to be cleaned out. And therefore, maybe you didn't clean out well. Some people have, it's not a big deal. You take a piece of plastic or vinyl or whatever, and you just cover the table. Then you cover it with a tablecloth. And then you're fine. What?
When you're covering, you also must clean it?
Yeah.
What was the question?
If you cover it, you have to clean it. The covering is after post cleaning, not before cleaning. Instead of cleaning, you have to clean it. Okay, now you have countertops. Again, we're speaking now the more lenient opinions. If you have certain synthetic materials, like for instance formica, which is not so popular today anymore, it used to be very popular, you can't kasher formica for Pesach.
You
Cannot. Other quartz, different materials, synthetic materials, there are opinions that say you can kasher for Pesach. Some people say you can't kasher them Pesach. The only really, what you really could kasher according to all opinions is marble, granite, metal. But even marble and granite, there's two different types of marble and granite counters. You have what's called a granite composite. Granite composite means it looks exactly like granite, but it's not a slab of granite. It's the composite means they take up the granite, they grind it up, they mix it with cement, and then they make it beautifully smooth and beautifully nice.
Quartz is the same thing.
Huh?
Quartz is the same exact thing.
Yeah, but there are those that want to be made by quartz. We're not made by quartz. But 1 second. So then you can't kasher that because the cement is earthenware.
Yeah.
Cement is earth. You can't kasher it. If you have one piece of marble, one piece of granite, then halachically you can kasher it. How do you kasher it? Make sure it's clean. And again, the lenient opinions say you just pour boiling hot water all over it, and then it's kosher. Some people are stricter. They'll also, beside that, they'll cover the counters with something, not to put something hot directly onto the countertop. But technically, if you kasher it the way I said, by pouring boiling hot water, a lot of opinions are lenient with it, and if people want, they can rely on that opinion. The same thing with metal or whatever.
How do you do that? You sometimes round with the egg, and then you pour it, and then it goes all over the place, goes on.
So you wash your floor also. What's the big deal?
No, it goes round, and it goes into the cabinet.
Okay, so you have to be careful. It shouldn't go in the cabinet. You don't.
You could
You could.
put a drawer, you put a towel.
Yeah. I was going to say that. There are ways of preventing the water from going into the cabinet. No, what?
You can rely on opinions for quartz to kasher, or?
For Pesach, I wouldn't.
There's quartz and quartzite. Quartzite is natural stone. It's a slab of stone. It's natural. Quartz is like ground up and made into.
Quartz is an Israeli invention, by the way. Yeah. Quartz just came onto the scene not that many years ago, and there was a big machlekes, and there still is a big machlekes in Poskim about quartz if you can kasher it or not. Most people say you could. There are a lot of people that say you can't. Even the kashrus organization, CFC, says you could. I mean, whatever. There's different opinions about it. If it's just a natural stone or not, or it's composed of different things. It depends, again, what the Metzias is. What?
If food is prepared and all the food is kosher for Passover, but they prepare it on an uncovered, unkosher countertop, the whole food becomes not kosher, right?
No, not necessarily. You have to ask a shalom to a rav. In other words, number one, I'll give you that example, how many details you need to know. Okay? That's simple. Was the counter clean? Number one. I'm not answering the question. Secondly, when was the counter used last for hot chametz? Okay? Thirdly, when are you making the food? Before Pesach or during Pesach? These are all differences. Fourthly, is the food hot that you're making? Is it cold or is it hot? Every one of these aspects is a different halacha. So, if somebody by mistake did it, they have to ask a shayla by a rav, but the yavid, if the situation is good. But l'chatchila, if people live in a home where they're not particular about these things, so what they do, ideally, when they prepare their own food, they should put even a towel down on the counter, or something on the counter, and prepare their food with that covering rather than just directly on the counter. But again, if it's cold, in technical halacha, it's good. By Pesach, remember we were learning the other day that if it's not used for 24 hours, it's blemish, taste. Remember we said, so it doesn't matter. But during Pesach, lechatchila, we don't rely on Eina Ben Yomei. We don't rely that it wasn't used for 24 hours. During Pesach, even if it was used within 24 hours, there's a big problem with it. B'diavad, there are leniencies in halacha, but lechatchila, you can't use something that was Eina Ben Yomei, like you could during the year, and make something Pesach from a pot that was chomistic but not used for 24 hours. You wouldn't be allowed to do that on Pesach.
It's like a practical question, because there are a lot of Persian people here, when you get invited to Persian homes on Passover, a lot of Persians, they're like, oh, all my food is kosher, and they pre-Passover, they clean the house,
Well, do they have separate pots for Pesach or the same pots?
Yeah, but their counters, they don't cover.
I promise you that's the least of the problems. That's the least of the problem.
So
Because then you could rely on it. You could rely on it. But again, I mean, there's a lot of these issues. What?
When you kasher the counter, so one way is with a stone that's hot. But if you don't have a hot stone and you just pour in hot water, it can get cooled down very quickly.
So
Does that kasher the whole counter when you pour it down? When you pour?
yeah, but for a countertop, Vaad Din iri klirishin is going to be enough because you never had. It was always iri klirishin. It spilled onto the counter.
It's this size, right?
I understand. So you have to make sure the water is very hot and keep boiling up the water.
When you start pouring it, you don't have to pour large amounts all over,
But the water doesn't cool off that quick. It's still yatsaled beva klirishin. It's not. But for instance, these tables, by the way, this is plastic. Plastic, yeah? These are not, with the minig in the world is you don't kasher plastic for Pesach. So if we want, and there's definitely chametz on these tables. For sure, right? People spill their coffee, cholent. So I tell you another, huh? Coffee's not chametz? Flavored chametz, flavored coffee probably is. Hot chocolate is probably. Huh? Cancel the minyan. No, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Somebody in the shul is going to donate a machine for Pesach. Okay. Buy a machine for Pesach. We're taking bids. The highest bidder over 10,000 will get it. New coffee machine. Okay. I know. What?
If your countertop is a little wet, or even the sink, anything that you're kashering is a little wet prior.
No, it has to be dry when you kasher it.
Sometimes the sink exudes on the bottom.
Yeah, but that's nothing. But officially, when you kasher something with hot water, it has to be dry. It says in halacha it should be dry before you kasher it. And what?
Because tatog over.
No, tatog gover doesn't mean a drop of water is tatog gover. Nah, not like.
Some people say for Shabbos.
Tatog gover means you have this much water and this much water, so tatog gover. You have this much water and this much this, you don't see tatog gover. Not by Shabbos.